The circuit, Ricardo Tormo, just outside Valencia. It's tight, it's twisty, and we've got a double qualifying session coming up. This is the end of play on Saturday, the two races on Sunday, the last two one-hour sprint races of the 2021 season. My name is Bruce Jones, looking forward to qualifying with John Watson. Track temperature 31 degrees. It's crept up. In fact, it had risen as high as 35. A degree of cloud cover has come over recently, and in fact it's starting to build up as you look back towards Valencia, a little darker in the skies. But I think track conditions should be absolutely fine today, John. It was a bit grey and damp yesterday. Not damp on the track, damp in the air, but today it has improved a little bit.
Well, they're certainly not going to come in to the qualifying. It's not going to be a factor, but what is, in a sense, thinking about the possibility of maybe rain coming in, that's what I meant about weather not being a factor. But it's as if you just stepped into an AGA oven. It's not hot, it's just extremely warm, and there's a bit of a difference. And we know that drivers were mentioning this morning after they had done their two sessions, that they were finding a bit of a strain, and it's only going to get hotter on Sunday afternoon.
Well, the track is a constant twisting dervish, if you will. 14 turns, John, up the slope to turn 2, up, down again, up to turn 6, a bit like the back slope at Indianapolis, but Interlagos, but then that wonderful sweep through 13 onto a tight turn 14 on the start-finish straight. In many ways, I wish it was a little more open, because certainly then you'd get better attacks down to the first corner. But the real factor today is going to be track limits. There will be people going over the curbs. They're very flat curbs, and certainly drivers have been pinged a lot so far.
Yes, it's one of those racetracks where there's a lot of freedom, but of course with that freedom comes a penalty. So you've got limits which you must basically adhere to. So the field's sitting waiting, and that's a car that's been a focal point of our two sessions this morning. That's the number 6 AMG Team TalkSport Mercedes, and they are well and truly off the pace, and nobody can tell us or explain to us what the problem is. They ended up 20th. And in fact, we saw in that final session, the top 19 cars are covered by just under a second. Yeah, it's super tight. And just to refer to the driver you see at the top of the screen, that's just because theirs is the lowest start number. Car number 6 is Lucas Stoltz, Mara Engel, a second place and a win at Brands Hatch. And here, just 20th so far. They've had track time, not as much as some of their rivals because they didn't go out in the silver and bronze session. But, however, yesterday when there was clear running, they were only 7 tenths. That's an awful lot here. Slower than the number 88 Raffaele Marciello driven Mercedes. Mercedes look on good form here. It seems to suit the circuit, the AMG GT3 Mercedes certainly, but then we had 7 manufacturers of cars in the top 10. And let's mention the one here that races on its own, the McLaren. It came good at Brands Hatch, didn't get to finish the first race, didn't get to start in Nürburgring, but it's here, and it was fast as ball this morning, and Ben Barnicoat particularly looks a very sharp tool indeed. Well, the McLaren was a car that I think we generally agree is due some success. It certainly was outstanding at Brands Hatch, and it looked pretty impressive here in those sessions today. But the time that we've all got to look at as the benchmark time was the time that was actually set on Friday afternoon, not by the McLaren, but by the 88 ACA ASP Mercedes Raffaele Marciello. What a surprise there. Set a time of 1 minute 31.9, and so far nobody's managed to get within over half a second of that. In fact, the best time this morning from the McLaren was 0.7 of a second slower. Now, different days, different conditions, primarily a usage of tyres, and we keep going on about tyre allocations, saving your tyres. And what teams, my feeling is, what they've been doing in those two sessions we had earlier today is they're saving their rubber because A, they need it for qualifying, but primarily for the 2 one-hour sprint races on Sunday. Now look at that. I mean, you would swear there. You would say, "Got to be rain. Got to be rain." Don't think that's going to be an issue, but it is warm, which may, after you've done a hot lap, 2 hot laps, just begin to take the edge off that brand new set of tyres, or the best of the rest of the tyres that you've managed to hold back.
Well, let's point out how the session works as the skies changing their hues by the moment. It's a 20-minute qualifying session, a 10-minute break, and then a second 20-minute qualifying session. How do you use your rubbers? And let's face it, in this, we've got the overall identity of the overall title winner in the Sprint Cup. It's Dries van Toor and Charles Weerts. They wrapped it up in the second of the races at Brands Hatch, but we've still got the Silver Cup series to sort out and the Pro-Am. And in the Pro-Am, field. How do they use their tyres? They're probably, in terms of natural pace, going to be down towards the tail of the grid anyhow, the 27 runners, with the exception of Johnny Adam, who can really put in something very special. And we saw at Misano, he was able to take outright pole position, which obviously was a huge advantage. And in the end, Alexander West took class victory in that race by, was it 1,000th of a second?
It was. He had a puncture. He picked up a puncture on the final lap. Managed to get across the line by that single 1,000th of a second. And that was a success in Misano, but it's going to be equally tough, if not tougher, here at Valencia, a new circuit to 90%, or maybe 100% of the competitors, certainly the principal competitors. And part of that is the driver getting accustomed to a different circuit, which in itself shouldn't be a problem. They should learn it pretty quickly. But it's dialing the car in, and the racetrack changes all the time. The car is changing, your tires are changing. And it's going to be about finding, I suppose, the most continuity and consistency between the car setup. Not so much here in these qualifying runs, because they're going to be relatively brief, but for those 2 one-hour sprint races, with a mandatory pit stop in the middle for driver and tyre wheel change. It's going to be difficult to find a way around other competitive cars. We had a race just a few minutes ago, single-seaters, and they themselves found it quite difficult following one after the other through the 14 turns here in Valencia.
Right, so Lucas Stoltz probably had he had less track time than his teammate. Mauro Engel was the first car out of the pit exit, and he's going to see what he can do. But this is a car that has had little track time, and what it has, they were convinced something was wrong with it. Maybe it was a Duff shock absorber. It just hasn't felt right, but already exceeding track limits. So we're going to have to watch this. This is the big question, John. How hard do you push? Because just exceed the track limits by a little bit. Too bad, you've exceeded the track limits.
Well, certainly that did not look right to me coming through turn 2. Got very, very wide indeed, much too high before he exited the corner, which would again indicate either he didn't get the tyres up to operating temperature on that outlap, which would be, I think, a big surprise. So it might be that this number 6 Mercedes is still not performing anywhere near its normal level.
Right, when we get another sighter of turn 6, the exit at the top of the hill, the cars are going all 4 wheels beyond the white line. But the story is, if you have your wheels on the red and white painted strips outside, you're okay. But if they're all on the green on the outside, then you're going to be pinged and you'll lose your lap time.
So it's a load of pressure on drivers. They know they've got to now perform. You're going to get maybe 2, maybe maximum 3 laps, where with the freshest, maybe a brand new set of tyres will give you that performance that you seek for your grid position. And look, slows right down. Now that is due to, there was a bit of traffic directly ahead, so Lucas Stoltz is going to reset and go again. He didn't want to catch up to the tail of the car that he's now following. Wants to give himself a little bit of a break.
Well, the car he actually had just the distance ahead of him was potentially the fastest car of all. It was the McLaren that was going around, but that seems to be about the last one out of the pit lane from Jota. And it's Ben Barnicoat in that. Right, the first flying lap on the board, 1 minute 34.9. That will be beaten. No, it has immediately been beaten. It's Petro Borescu, the 89 ACA ASP Mercedes. Benjamin Goethe, the number 30, Team WRT Audi. And Ezekiel Perez Compank in the Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes. So again, Mercedes showing their hand at the top. Julian Apostolos puts the Allied Racing Porsche, number 222, up into fourth fastest. But of course it changes. Now we have a Lamborghini at the top. Car number 14. Ricardo Feller didn't seem to be on the tip-top of his toes this morning, but like a lot of others, they were being cautious with their tyres. They were trying to decide how to use them through the course this weekend. And I think, quite honestly, for a lot of the crews up and down the pit lane, it was almost a toss of the coin before qualifying about how many pairs of tyres they threw at them and to also get grid position. Sorry,
just simply to find that clear piece of racetrack, because if you get held up by another car, Ben Barnicoat coming through in the McLaren, catching up to the tail of the ACA ASP Mercedes, will not want to catch it coming into this part of the racetrack. This is this long left-hander that leads into the actual apex, which becomes turn 14. So Boguslavski exits, whereas the McLaren there, it is there. So the sector times that we saw initially from the McLaren were amongst the quickest. So it comes across the line, wait to see. It's still Charles Ferretz has gone quickest overall, but Ben Barnicoat has exceeded that by 0.2 of a second.
Well, that's looking good after one flying lap apiece. Ben Barnicoat was one of the last cars out of the pits, but what he did, he gave himself track position, and very comfortably. Oscar Tunjo now goes to the top. The number 7 Top Sport Mercedes looked very good all weekend, and his best lap is a 1/10 of a second faster than the McLaren of Barnicoat, but he's got one further lap under his belt. That is Tunjo.
Ricardo Feller, green personal best in both first, second sector. Wait to see where that elevates him from 5th place. For surely it will do, it does, up to 2nd place. So it's now Tunju, Feller, Ben Barnicoat and Charles Vetz running out the top 4.
And way down the order, 20th at the moment, but with the fastest sectors, Dennis Marshall and suddenly Oscar Tunjo top. And John.
Lucas Stoltz has got a purple in Sector 1. We wonder what had happened to the number 6. That car has gone fastest overall in Sector 1. So whatever they were doing, certainly they found some of the answer.
But the first 2/3 of the lap were very good for Dennis Marshall. The final bit, good too. So he's now top for Tempto Racing, number 99 car, the one that hasn't gone as well as the sister car through the course this year, but the young German top, and another German, slightly older, but it's Lucas Stoltz, really starting to string it together at last. So a lot of head scratching. He's listed as 13th, but he's fastest in the first sector. He's improved on his second sector time, gaining hand over fist on his previous one. But at the moment, he's 13th. He's down by 1 second, precisely as he was at the end of this morning's practice when he was in 20th position. But it is going to be an improvement, surely. He jumped over the curbs out of turn 14. The target time, 1 minute 33.3 seconds. Ben Barnicoat had gone back to the top. Has that been beaten by Stoltz? Yes, it has.
It's only by 1/10 of a second, but it's been beaten. So it's now Mercedes, McLaren, Mercedes, Lamborghini, then the Aston Martin.
Well, that car from Tuchel has already had one of its laps taken away for exceeding track limits, and certainly have to keep an eye on the bottom of the timing screen as well. It's a quick action down there. But for Lucas Stoltz, well, they guessed perhaps, or maybe called it intuition, but they've guessed right in terms of setup for qualifying at least.
And that time 1 minute 33.214. That's still way off the times we saw this morning, and even slower than those we had on Friday afternoon, indicating that the temperature, the rise in temperature, the track conditions is not favouring anybody for quick lap times at this moment.
Right, times must have been taken away because fleetingly we had Dennis Marshall at the top of the time charts. Now he's 27th, so his best lap has been removed. Everybody else has. And he's gone back to second, the transponder problem.
And last lap of car 38 cancelled. The McLaren's last lap has been also cancelled, so Ben Barnicoat now down into 5th place. Lucas Stoltz quickest, Dennis Marshall on the Audi second quickest. Ben Barnicoat, lap time deleted, down to 5th.
Couldn't quite understand why first and second had fallen down the order, but Dennis Marshall reimposed back at the top. So 1 minute 33.214 seconds is the best time. Lucas Stoltz just 3/100ths of a second faster than Dennis Marshall. So we've got a Mercedes from an Audi. 3rd place, Oscar Tunjo in his Mercedes. 4th place at the moment, Ricardo Feller in his Lamborghini. Top runner at the moment in the Pro-Am class is Miguel Ramos in the Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini in 18th place overall. That's 6 places ahead of the best of the rest of the runners in Pro-Am, which is Louis Machiels, who's down in 24th.
On board with Ricardo Feller into this quick turn at turn 12. Turn right, then left. Turn left. Make sure you don't overrun on the exit between the two corners. Then this long turn 13, ultimately leading into the tight apex of turn 14. So personal best in second sector for Ricardo Feller, looking to improve on his current 4th place. He needs a mega 3rd sector to see an improvement if he doesn't get it.
Okay, and now when we had Ben Barnicoat losing the fastest time, the good thing was he was very quickly back on the pace and managed to do another. Sometimes you can do a really good time, know it's going to get taken away from you, but then you've got into traffic. So really working your position on the track is vital. We've lost almost 9 of the 20 minutes have passed by, and top Aston Martin, Thomas Tuchel, 159, and his middle sector hasn't been so good. He won't improve. The first sector of the 3 was good indeed, but still competitive laps. Will he improve on 7th place? Not quite. Now, a car that potentially could be on pole position, but with its best time having been taken away, it's the McLaren from Jota. It's green and white and red, and it's very quick in the hands of Ben Barnicoat. He's going to improve. At the moment, he's just over 1/4 of a second down on the ultimate pace. Could get up towards the front row, provisional front row with this lap if he can slot it together in the final sector.
So he stays 5th. Now that's a surprise. We thought there was going to be an improvement from the McLaren. So Chris Froggatt in the 93 Sky Tempesta Ferrari, he's moved up to 6th place. That's a good run by Froggatt.
Well, it's a fantastic run by Froggatt, and he's joined this weekend by driver he had so much success with in the Sprint Cup last year when they won the Pro-Am title. So Eddie Cheever III is going to be driving that car in the second of the qualifying sessions here this afternoon.
This lap not quite so good. He's down in the first and second sectors, coming up to the completion of yet another lap through that long turn 13. Hang it out to the right, then make your apex there. Be careful on the throttle on the exit. Don't overdo it on the exit. and he comes into the pit lane, so it's all somewhat irrelevant.
Well, all but, well, I think they'll come in. I think we've got 5 cars out on the circuit. Everybody else, are they waiting? Well, they've still got 9.5 minutes remaining before they can no longer go out, so time can be recorded. The Dynamic Motorsport Porsche, another one coming into the pits, and that was driven really well when it was 4th fastest this morning. Certainly put a smile on John's face. Christian Engelhardt, who actually, like John, has driven a Formula BMW here a very, very long time ago.
He did, yes. I did it as a part of a road test I was doing for a magazine, so there was no pressure on me other than to go out and enjoy it.
Purple's a good colour if you're trying to set the pace, and Ben Barnicot's improved in the first sector. He's fastest of all in the second sector. He's got the track to himself. He's coming round the final corner. Is Barnicot coming in as well? Yes, he is. He spoiled the fun, but that, if he'd been strung together, would potentially have been the fastest lap of the lot. But that doesn't belong to him. It belongs to the number 6 TalkSport WRT Mercedes. Woe is no longer them. From nowhere right to the top of the charts.
It's interesting at this stage of qualifying 1 that Ben Barnicot could still get a purple sector in sector 2, indicating that the McLaren is doing something with his tyres that's not bad. I mean, that's a set of tyres that'll come off, and they may well be a race set. They must be in good condition. They certainly looked, when they came off the car, looked absolutely perfect. Another set goes on, and Barnicot will continue. He's going to have just over 8 minutes of the session remaining, so he'll get an out lap, and possibly will get 2 flying laps before we come to the conclusion. 20 minutes has just gone by.
Right, just looking down to the Pro-Am battle as Mad Panda Motorsport goes back out. This is Ezekiel Perez Compact. He's suddenly 12th. Pro-Am battle, the car leading the class, the Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini, that's 20th overall. The car giving chase, which is the Johnny Adam Alexander West 188 Aston Martin, is slowest at the moment. Is 7 places further back. So if Alexander West, who's running this session, can pick up a place or 2, that would just be a lot more useful come the start of the race. But for Miguel Ramos, that's looking good. He's put a buffer between himself and his class rivals.
Yeah, that makes a big difference when you go into your first of the 2 sprint races, that you've got that additional track position. So for Alexander West, if he is unable to make any improvement on his current, what will be the 13th, 14th starting row, big margin to climb, and that throws the benefit more to the Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini as we watch now. Mad Panda, Ezekiel Perez Compact, currently 12th quickest. His time at 1:33.8, so he's just over half a second down on what is currently still the fastest time from Lucas Stoltz.
Right, what's going to be the problem? It's going to be grip, of course, staying within the limits of the circuit. I still fancy the Sansalot Racing Audis to make a splash. The 26 still sitting in the pit. It's going to be position on the track. Aurelian Panis is waiting to be signalled out, and a lot of cars are very close together, and clever, judicious placing in traffic is going to be a helping hand. And the McLaren, though, has not managed that. It's the middle of the pack.
And it's running behind the Aston. There's traffic ahead of him, so he's going to want to try and certainly clear the Aston before he gets onto the start-finish straight, but he may be impaired slightly. He's got 2 more cars ahead of him. Can he dive down the inside into turn? This is turn 8. So he gets up alongside, but not quite to be able to take that position. And now he's going to sit behind as they go through these sequence of lefts and rights up the hill, up into turn 11. And this is where the frustration can set in. A driver can find himself getting trapped, and there's no natural pace. Look, everybody's now backed out of it to try and give everybody that little bit of space.
Right, obviously, John, you don't need a huge amount of space because the lap times were so competitive. Let's just say the figure again. The top 19 runners this morning were covered by a second.
Indeed.
That is the lot. So you don't need to come back a huge amount, but certainly Ben Barnicot, who's still sitting in that 5th place, wanted track position. He's had to go backwards to find the space to go forwards. But ironically, the driver who's fastest, Lucas Stoltz, down the slope to turn 16, is all on his own. He was the first car out of the pits, and he seems to have sorted this time for TalkSport WRT. Maybe they got all their bad form out of the way this morning, but track placement is mighty for them.
Alexander West still in that 27th position. McLaren has just gone through, and there further back there's a little bit more air between some of the competitors. The Lamborghini in particular looking to get a good run, not going to get too much interference from any of the aero wash of those around him. There's 5 minutes remain of this session. And
suddenly Stefan Richelme, who was down towards the tail of the field, has slotted up to 16th place, the first of the recent improvements after the visit to the pits. So Stefan in the 108 Bentley has the bragging rights because it's 2 positions ahead of his teammate, the 107, which is driven by Ulysses Depot.
just watching the ASP 88 Mercedes, Timo Bergerslawski was weaving around a little bit as if he didn't have enough ambient temperature to get heat in his tires. He was trying to generate a little bit more of what I would call core tire temperature, not just surface temperature.
Right, the car that Barnicoat is behind is Thomas Tuchel, who's only one position down on him, only 0.15 of a second down in terms of pace, so he won't be too delayed by Thomas Tuchel, but he's dropped back, hopefully from his point of view, by enough.
Seeing a couple of greens, got Stefan Rakelmi in the Bentley up to 16th. We've got Valentin Pierberg in the Mercedes, who's up to 18th, and expect now to see Lavalainen in the 114 Lamborghini. He's moved into 11th, and there's still a lot to go with 4 minutes on the clock as the 54 Porsche. Leo Russell, he's gone up to 6th place in the Santa Loc Audi. And where's it going to stop before we get to the end of just 4 minutes or less?
Chris Froggatt getting very loose. He got up into 11th place, but this lap a little bit compromised. So the clock counts down 3 3/4 minutes left in this session. Who's going to keep their cool head? But certainly Ulysses de Pauw up into 5th place. John, did you notice that one? So for the Bentley, so spurred on by being overtaken by his teammate Stefan Rakelmi. Suddenly, from nowhere, the Bentley's in the mix. And then Charles Weerts, not champion for nothing, moves up into 4th place.
And a further purple in Sector 1 for Lukas Stolz, current quickest car on the grid, 1:33.214. And that's now been improved because Ezequiel Perez, compact, has absolutely blown the field out of the water. He's gone provisionally quickest on a 1:33.133, 81 thousandths of a second quicker than the car, the number 6 Lukas Stolz Mercedes, which still probably too low. Right.
Oscar Tundra goes top, so Stolz goes down to 3rd, but I'm sure we'll be back to 1st. Yes, he is a new into the 32s, 1:32.784, nearly 3/10 of a second faster than Oscar Tundra. So it's 3 Mercedes at the top. Just bear this in mind. Stolz, Tunjo and Perez Compact, who'd be delighted with that, but he'd be delighted to know he was top of the charts. Dennis Marshall, the best of the Audis, but what is the pace of the McLaren? Because Ben Barnicoat has fallen down to 7th place overall. His middle sector wasn't brilliant. Maybe able to recover the lap a little bit. Yes, he's just marginally up. He's got Ricardo Feller as his next target, but he's 6/10. That's a huge margin down on Lukas Stolz, who's absolutely flown.
Timo Bergerslawski in the 88 Mercedes, gone 3rd quickest. 2nd Ben Barnicoat, so he's done enough on that lap. It didn't look like it on the timing and scoring, but he's done it to go back to the 32. Charles Weerts, who got himself well up the order, now falling back into 7th. Ben Barnicoat 2nd. Lukas Stolz still remains on that provisional pole on a 1:32.784.
And Ulysses de Pauw, his moment of glory, his lap time taken away. He's fallen back to 9th overall. So it's Stolz from Barnicoat who's spoiling the run for the Mercedes. And where are the Audis in the pack? Dennis Marshall for Attempto Racing is 6th overall. Charles Weerts is 7th. Santalot Racing 26, Aurelian Panis just outside the top 10. His teammate Leo Russell 1 position behind. They're 12th and 13th, but these times are going to keep on scrambling.
1.5 minutes of the session remaining, so it'll be virtually this lap, and that'll be about it for the entire field, as they still have got Mercedes, McLaren, Mercedes, Audi. Well, what we saw on Friday is being repeated here this afternoon. 4 Mercedes in the top 6.
Right, ACA ASP have long been the top Mercedes team, but it's 2 Mercedes from TalkSport WRT. Oscar Tunjo slotted in behind Lukas Stolz. They're 1st and 2nd. They're covered by just 36 thousandths of a second. Ben Barnicoat, though, is fighting back. Pink middle sector, green first sector for the McLaren driver. Here it is, car number 38. Turn 13 is behind him. Turn 14 coming onto the start from the straight. Little hop at the back, just about keeps enough within track limits. That's permissible. Down he comes. Target time, 1:32.784 seconds. Well, it's been beaten by the smallest of margins, but it's enough. 0.073, and they're happy with that. Ollie Wilkinson, though, with his helmet on, knows he's going to go out and have his turn soon. And for Maro Engel, happiness has gone to a little bit of sadness, but certainly from 20th this morning to 2nd at the moment, that's not a bad game.
No, they were. It looked as if they were in deep trouble, but whatever the issues were, they may have been doing things they weren't telling us about. But certainly Lukas Stolz, now provisional front row of the grid, 2nd place, doesn't seem to have an answer. On that first sector, his time is about a 10th second down. On the 2nd sector, 2/10ths down. Ben Barnicoat has got that 2nd sector purple time. So it looks like Barnicoat might have done enough at the right time. Circuit flag is going to be out now. Session has concluded, and looks like Ben Barnicoat and the Jota McLaren team have secured that pole position.
Well, they worked harder. We thought they might have got it wrong with the traffic, but certainly Ben Barnicoat kept his cool. 1 minute 32.711. So, margin not of a
Q2
lot.
will start at 1600. 1600.
And have to keep looking at the timing screens. Time still being cancelled. And Frank Bird, who was featuring very strongly in the Silver Cup, unfortunately will be starting down in 23rd position. By the looks of things, he just had his best lap cancelled for track limits excess at turn 14. That's turn 14 there, the final corner of the track. Santalok Audi looks so that was all 4 wheels on the green. That will also probably lose a time. But for Ben Barnicoat, he didn't lose a time. He's taken pole positions. Last few cars running through. Just John looking to see if there are any quick gains at the end. Ricardo Feller went up to 7th place with his Lamborghini. And how about Charles Wirtz?
Yeah, I mean, he's sliding the dirt, tracking the car through turn 12 in an endeavour to try and gain that car's slight improvement. They need to find a way to get Charles Wirtz up from the 4th row of the grid, 8th position. They come across the start-finish line, one of the last finishers in this qualifying, and Charles Wirtz remains in 8th position.
Right, the top second covers down to, well, top 9/10 of a second down to Thomas Tuchel, the number 159 Aston Martin. So within a second, it's very tight at the top, but Ben Barnicoat got it right at the very moment. Last couple of cars just taking a checkered flag, one of the Attempto Racing. This is Matthias Drudy's car coming over, and one of the Lamborghinis. Are there any further changes? Nothing at the sharp end of the field. So Barnicoat and Jota, there, the smiles there. And for Ollie Wilkinson, well, that means he's likely to have a good result in the first race. Can he then give the team an extra chance in the second race?
The big advantage that Ben Barnicoat is going to have is what we saw in Brands Hatch, and that is by leading and hoping he will lead into turn 1. Then he can control the pace of the field, and depending who might be behind him, it might be a car that's going to defend the rest of the field or a car that might want to be attacking the McLaren. But right now, Lucas Stolz is the most likely of those challengers. Oscar Tunio in the 7 Mercedes. Well, we wait and see.
Well, he's got a lot to smile about, not just qualifying 3rd, but he's a top runner in the Silver Cup class, and that is going to be vital because he and his teammate Yusuf Ohaka are 3rd in that. But Jota, top of the table, 1 minute 32.711 seconds. It was tight, and with that sort of run into the pits and then coming back out, it was a real scramble. They got to the top though, but for Talksport WRT, 2nd and 3rd, good reward for them. And that was Lucas Stolz ahead of Oscar Tunjo. And for Dennis Marshall, fantastic run in the Attempto 99 Audi, sharing that with Alex Aka. So the young German really starring there. And to put one over, Timo Bogoslawski, Ezekiel Perez Compact, Ricardo Feller, and Charles Wirtz. Those are some big names behind him. So for Dennis Marshall, it's about gathering scalps, and that was a great run for him up into 4th place overall. The top runner in the Pro-Am class, in the end, it was Valentin Pierberg, just ahead of Louis Maschils, and Miguel Ramos, so long at the top of the class, ended up 3rd in Pro-Am. But maybe some of the teams have been happy to stick a set of tyres away and keep them for the race. But the teams will keep that secret, John, to themselves. We'll only really get to see the picture tomorrow. But right now, job supremely well done by Jota at the top of the charts. And for those who went over track limits, unlucky.
We never saw Benjamin Goethe. He's got no time. So he's 27th and last. So I don't know what the problem was for that particular Audi as Maro Engel prepares. And just, going through the motions of helmet on, everything's done in a way which you're in your little comfort zone here. There'll be things that he will do in getting dressed to get into the car. He'll put his helmet on, he'll put the hands and neck device on. That will be the next item of, you see it's not just a hands and neck device, it's actually almost like a body support which gives that particular piece of equipment, safety equipment, greater security. So, good job done by Lucas Stolz. Everybody in the Talksport Motorsport team can sit back and breathe, knowing that they've done the business there. Ben Barnicoat, well, he did what he had to do. Yeah, that's interesting, less brake pressure. And I mentioned in the other broadcast about lift and coast. There's certain bits of the corner, or certain bits of the circuit, particularly into turn 13, 14, where I think it's one of those places you lift off and let it coast. You don't nail the brakes because you get the car possibly too unstable at that part of the racetrack. You want to drive the car out of the corner, not try and make up a 100th of a second or a 1,000th of a second, scratching your way into it.
So a technical circuit for all of these drivers, and get it slightly wrong on one corner, the next corner is almost upon you. But let's hear from the driver who set the fastest time so far. It's a driver from Jota Sport. He's a McLaren driver. He is Ben Barnicoat.
Ben, first of all, congratulations. You left it right to the last minute, though.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was tough. You know, it's been tough around here. We've seen throughout the practice a lot of people getting penalties and track limits warnings. So my first effort got removed for that. And then, yeah, the track's actually really tough at the minute. It feels very, very slippery. So I've, tried to guide Ollie as best as I can. But yeah, that's why I found it so hard in the beginning, just over pushing the car slightly, and that reined it all back. Got myself together and was able to deliver a lap for pole. So big thanks to everyone at Jota and McLaren for that.
And you said there you were passing that information on to Ollie. We saw you having quite a detailed chat with him.
Yeah, it was just really tough. The conditions, the grip this morning was quite good, and then it was very slippery. I think it must be something to do with the Formula Renaults. Obviously, there's a lot of them here, a lot of cars going around, and yeah, it just caught me by surprise. So, that's what teammates do. We look out for each other and try and help each other as best we can. So hopefully he'll have a good shot now. He's been doing a great job all weekend, so just want to see him do as best as he can.
Well, certainly a great way for you guys to be back.
Yeah, good to be back. Thank you.
Well done.
So interesting there, John, from Ben Barnicott. You can look out at the track, but you have no idea what it really feels like until you're out there in a car running at full pace.
Absolutely, and I think what Ben Barnicott was explaining to Ollie Wilkinson is that the track conditions are different to this morning. Now, everybody had to go out in this session sort of blind and not knowing what they're going to get until they find it out. But the benefit that a teammate can give now to the second driver who's going out for Q2 is that insight and knowledge. And again, the concept of not rushing into a corner, nailing the brake and trying to scratch around a corner, the best way is probably slower in and quicker out. And with the track conditions, whether it's because of the support events here or whether it's because just racetracks change, the temperature, the warmth, the circuit temperature, whatever, it has changed. So you have to make a very quick adaptation to those conditions. Ben Barnicott did that extremely successfully, as did many others, and there's some outstanding performances in Q1.
Yeah, there really were, and you really felt the pressure, particularly when they'd all come into the pits and went out with about 7.5 minutes remaining, and they had to make their space out on the circuit, had to interpret exactly how the track conditions were. They may have well put on fresh rubber and therefore a different feel from the tyres they went out with to start with. But for all the teams down the pit lane, particularly for the Mercedes teams, we had ACA ASB starring yesterday when track conditions were different, but today it hasn't quite come their way. But Raffaele Marciello's taken over the 8A from Tim Bogoslawski. He's been top pretty much every time he's been in the car. Can he do it again? Well, we'll find out. But we heard from a driver who wasn't very happy earlier. He certainly is now, and he goes by the name of Luca Stoltz.
Luca, for a moment there, it was looking like a top sport front row.
Yeah, I mean, the guys did a massive job because we had some issues in the practice session. Also, yesterday wasn't great for us. But the guys did a really good job to put it together for qualifying. But to be honest, the feeling in the car wasn't that nice. Track felt really low grip because sun was shining and was quite hot. So the grip was actually quite low. So it was just about to make 0 mistakes and put the lap together. But yeah, as I said, the guys did a massive job to get the car in the right window. And now it's, I think it's P2, P3 for TalkSport. Yeah, it's great.
And in terms of the changes you made on the car, did you find a specific problem this morning?
It was no specific problem. It was just we didn't feel like we're using the peak of the tire, and we are searching for grip. And yeah, we did the right steps now.
Well done. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Cheers.
Well, John, when we looked at his early flying laps, they didn't look very handy. Up at turn 2, you saw him pushing wide, but somehow he wrung the neck of the car and got the speed out of it.
Well, I think maybe what he did do was go out and drive the track as he might have done earlier this morning or yesterday, and found out very quickly that the track conditions had changed. So the key for Luca Stoltz and for others is adapting to the track conditions. And when you've got a track which is not giving you the level of grip that you expected, especially on the entry into a corner, then you have to alter your driving style and alter how you enter that corner. The key is always not about being how quick you are into the corners, but how quick you can get off the corner and using the traction that the car has got. So maybe sacrifice 100th of a second on the entry to gain 200ths or 300ths of a second on the exit. And I think Luca Stoltz worked that out pretty quickly in turn 2. And pretty much everybody, Ben Barnicott likewise, and just explaining, we heard him explaining to Ollie Wilkinson about how to brake, maybe not stand on the brakes at the last meter or half a meter before you want to get into the corner. Just give that car a chance to recover from the braking moment before then you turn in.
So who's going to interpret the instructions from their teammate, the advice from their teammate who's just come in, now hot, out of the car? They're cool, waiting to go in, but they've got to stay calm. Dries Vanthoor's seen his car qualify only 8th. Normally that would be a disaster, but they've got the championship wrapped up, but they're still aiming for points. They want to end in style in the Sprint Cup, but they want to win the overall cup combined with the endurance races. And so they do need to start from further forward from there. But he's a cool head. We've seen it again and again, and very, very quick. So we could yet see an Audi at the top.
But I'll qualify all this by saying there are certain drivers in the field who are what I would call press-on drivers. And Raffaele Marcello unquestionably is one of those. Dries van Thor likewise. So they're going to go out. Okay, they've got the benefit of whatever their co-driver might have told them. But likewise, they've got to be cautious that they don't... The tyre that they may be on, whether it's a brand new set of tyres or the freshest of the rest of the tyres, they don't want to send the tyre into a high peak temperature, get a spike in temperature, and then again that contributes to a loss of time. Again, I noticed just how much rubber there is, although that's offline into turn 1. Nevertheless, there's quite a lot of build-up of tyre rubber on a number of the corners around the racetrack.
Look, and we've commented, John, if you're going out over the curbing, there's an awful lot of slippery tyre debris over the edge, and the drivers are trying to stay within the edge because track limits have been a big thing for the drivers out there. And Ben Barnicoat got away with losing one of his quickest times, but was competitive enough to be able to put some more competitive times in and end up at the top of the table. But for some people, if it's their very best, their ultimate shot, and it's gone wrong because they've gone a little bit wide, then there's no comeback from
it. I mean, the key will be the driver's ability to read track conditions and adapt to those conditions. If you've got a track that's different to that we had earlier in the day, or even it might even be marginally different from what we just had in Q1, there's no point flogging something to death to try and drag a time out if that's the wrong direction of travel. So keep an open mind and think about, what am I doing if I'm braking very late, which is the normal thing a driver will try to do, and that's causing me understeer and pushing the front of the car away from the apex. Then reset, readjust, lift off that little bit earlier, get the nose to grip, and then once you've got the grip, then you can get the balance of the car where you want it, and then you can accelerate from the corner.
So the drivers getting the heat in the tyres, getting the assessment, the feel underneath them. How is the track going to handle for them this afternoon? The second of the qualifying sessions, the first one went to McLaren. With this one as well, Ollie Wilkinson's got a task ahead of him. But for Top Sport WRT, the form has been strong. For the number 7 car, it's been strong all weekend. It's Oscar Tunjo put that third in the first qualifying session as by far the leading Silver Cup runner. And Yusuf Oaxaca, his Finnish teammate, is going to see, can he match the Colombian in that?
Look at the steering input, very gentle indeed. Now this may not be a flying lap, albeit he's got a purple sector in sector 1, but everything has been done in a very progressive manner. There's no dramatic inputs, no sudden spikes in steering inputs. I mean, it is clearly an out lap at the pace he's going there, you can see. So he's got purple and green, but it's for nothing because this is just simply an out lap for the Finn as he comes up into turn 13, looking for and letting traffic go through because he's looking for track space. Now he's got a little bit of track space and he can enter turn 14 slowly, accelerate from here hard and mitigate the side slip the car would have otherwise if you're on a flying lap. So now he's going to set off, cross start finish line, and we will no doubt very quickly see who's going purple as Norbert Siedler comes up to the conclusion of what will be purple. So that's a good start for Siedler. There is a lap on the timing and scoring, that's for Arthur Rouget, sister car, and Fontana. So we've got the two Emile Frey Lamborghinis, first and second, and waiting for Norbert Siedler to see where his time, he goes quickest. So we got, in fact, Klaus Bachler in the 222 Porsche has gone second quickest.
Yeah, so at one point we had all three of the Lamborghinis in the top 5 positions, and all changing left, right and centre. Now Klaus Bachler second, Norbert Siedler third, Rick Breukers, now Dominic Baumann. It's rotating super fast at the top. Time's getting taken away already. And unfortunately, Klaus Bachler's time appears to have disappeared from the board, and several others as well. So car 30, enter the box. He's not authorised to go on the track until the okay. So various times being cancelled. Car 30, remember, ended up at the bottom of the table in the first one. That's the car shared by Benjamin Goethe and this weekend Robin Freitz, but it should be Freitz at the wheel in this session.
So Klaus Bachler in Porsche, ahead of 2 Mercedes, ahead of Marcus Winkelhock on the Audi. Johnny Adams up to 5th place again, just indicating the outstanding pace that Aston Martin really has. Christopher Hasse rounds out the top 6 in Audi.
So quite a few cars have lost their time. Car 66 and 114 lost their times. That's why the Lamborghini presence at the top of the table dropped away again after Rougier when they had 3 of the top 5 cars. But Jules Gounon goes to the top of the charts. The 89 ACA ASP Mercedes, 1 minute 32.410 seconds. That is a really seriously good lap. Shows how fast the track is coming. But that was nailed by the Frenchman.
Now we've got Marcello in the sister car for ACA ASP. So what can the Italian do? Looking, I was going to say smooth, but he did drop the wheel off and he's on the edge, but he knows he can't rag the car too much coming into this final turn. The tyres are crying enough already after 13 turns. So personal best, this could be provisional quickest for the Italian. Comes across the line. Well, where's my provisional quickest? What happened there? 7th position. That is not in the script, I can assure you.
That wasn't. It looks like the script was preordained that he would put the lap together. There is an ACA ASP Mercedes at the top. That's Jules Gounon. There's a Top Sport Mercedes in second. That's Yusuf Bahaka. And 2 Porsches in the top 5. Christian Engelhardt in third and Klaus Bachler in fifth, with Dries van Tor between them in the top Audi. Here is Dries.
Hopping and skipping and jumping as he came through turn 12. So he ain't taking any prisoners right now. He's nailing it all the way around this lap, and he's lost time in that middle sector. So 0.2 of a second away. Whatever he gained in sector 1 has been deleted. Where will they end up? They were 4th and they remain 4th.
Well, it's going to be a question of what if, which is a dreadful thing. What if I hadn't exceeded track limits?
Rick Breukers, purple sector 1. And Ollie Wilkinson's just, by the way, popped up into 8th place in the McLaren. But Rick Breukers is the man on the charge, but he loses again that middle sector. And is that a case of everybody just pushing that little bit too hard? And what would be maybe the more technical aspect of this racetrack, where you've got a lot of corners, one leads into the other, and if you get the beginning wrong, then the tail of that then usually alters. So Breukers currently 10th.
Well, he should be moving up the order a little bit, waiting for that time to go onto the board. Goes up to 3rd, so Mercedes the top 3 positions. Looking to see where the other moves are coming from, but Raffaele Marcello's improved in the 1st sector, he's improved in the 2nd sector. He is down in 9th position at the moment in that 88 Mercedes. The McLaren, Ollie Wilkinson is in 10th. He's improving around the course of the lap.
Yeah, and just looking at it, I was going to say that Marcello had improved, but in fact it was Rick Breukers up to 3rd. Bahaka is in 2nd, so it's a Mercedes 1, 2 and 3. Porsche 4, Mercedes 5, Maro Engel in the number 6. Mercedes has got that car, and he's on another lap. Purple in sector 1. So that number 6 Mercedes, great job starting the front row of the grid for qualifying race 1, or for race 1, has en route, if he can keep it rolling. Let's go back to Ollie Wilkinson in the McLaren.
Yeah, well, Wilkinson had a very poor middle sector. You can see he lost lost just over 0.8 of a second. So that undoes the good work he did at the start. In the previous session, the first qualifying session, it was about this time that people started coming into the pits, and then we had a hiatus, and then they all went out for a charge. But this session, they seem to be sticking at it a little longer. Now, what's happening with Maro Engel? Just waiting for the number 6 car to come on the start-finish straight. There it is, 2 cars in front of him, pull into the pits. He is not going to waste this lap. This could potentially be the fastest lap of the lot. He's 6th coming down the start-finish straight. He actually drops a position because Jules Gounon stretches it.
No. Eddie Cheever in the Ferrari has gone 2nd quickest. Maro Engel's gone 3rd. Where did that time come from? Eddie Cheever in the Sky Tempesta Ferrari. That is the short time of this session by a mile.
It absolutely is. He was down in the mouth this morning. Things didn't seem to be going right. Chris Froggatt was doing well. He was qualifying when I last saw him, he was around 10th, 11th position. So the car clearly very well hooked up for Sky Tempesta Racing. But that time, absolutely fantastic. So just as Maro Engel was sticking in a quick time, would he go into 2nd? No, he wouldn't. 2nd wasn't available. So Eddie Cheever has grabbed that. Who else is going to be making a move? Nelson Panciatici, he's 14th coming down the start from the straight. Middle sector's let him down. He stays in 14th. Who's going to move into the top 10? That's the big question.
So I think the lap time of the 38 Jota McLaren has been pinged. Track limits at turn 6, so that's why we were looking for the McLaren further up than it has ended up.
Well, he's down in 25th position.
Well,
one car, I have to work out which car is yet to go out on the circuit, but that was around 10th position at the time, and then that lap taken away.
But personal best now in 1st and 2nd sector, so he's going to regroup, but you don't need to throw away a time like that.
Well, any second now, 38 will be at the start-finish line as well. Is there a move in the world of Lamborghini?
Wilkinson ends up in 12th position at the end of that lap on the side of the sixth row of the grid as the 188 Aston is back in the garage. And where is that car?
It's down in 21st position. It's the second of the runners in the Pro-Am class, but importantly for SPS Automotive Performance, theirs is leading it up in 8th position overall. Great job by Dominic Baumann.
I thought that Aston with Johnny Adam behind the wheel would have been further up. We saw it better, certainly in Misano, when it had the pole position for one of the sprint races there. Jim Pla again down in 14th position. Again, a car that one would expect under previous conditions to pull into the pit lane and abandon that lap.
Well, they all pretty much are following the script from the first session, but Enrique Chavez got to see what he can do for Barwell Motorsport. They didn't end up at the top of the Pro-Am class in the first qualifying session. Can they do it in the second? But they've got a lot to find if he's going to get anywhere close to Dominic Baumann.
Well, he's currently 25th, and this is going to be an improvement for the Lamborghini. Comes across the line and goes top to 13th, almost halves the grids that he was on. So that's a good position for Enrique Chavez to start the second of the two races on Sunday.
Right, the race is on within the pit lane. Drivers getting ready to get out. And then, of course, they've got to get track space. In the first qualifying session, Ben Barnicoat didn't get good track space, and he had to wait 2 or 3 laps until he had it. And then right at the end, he came through to take pole position. We've got just under 9 minutes remaining, and he's got things to do. But it's Jules Gounon who's top of the charts. Anybody out on the circuit, actually, for now, unless they've got cars coming into their paths, may have the last laugh. So Enrique Chavez pushing on around the circuit, see if he can rise higher than 13th. He may yet. His first sector is green by quite a margin, a third of a second.
Absolutely, that's a good improvement on Sector 1. Sector 2 is the more difficult one to find time in here. Into Turn 8, it's a tricky corner. The track falls away, and it naturally allows the car to run very wide on the exit. So into Turn 9, which is just a flat-out curve, then straighten the car up for 10, which you really ignore. Then it's this Turn 11 that's the key to that sequence of 4 corners. Then the short sprint down into the entry into Turn 12. Again, it's more important to get your nose in and then get on the gas. 0.4 of a second up in Sector 2.
Right, Chavez, if he carries on improving at this rate, could get into the top 6. If he gets in the top 8, that means he'll move ahead of the other Pro-Am challenger, Dominic Baumann. So for Chavez, the Portuguese racer, tidy exit from Turn 14. What can he do? His target time to beat 1 minute 32.853 seconds. Can he beat it? Yes, he can. Goes into 8th overall, so he's just squeaked ahead of Dominic Baumann. So he's the top Pro-Am runner for Barwell Motorsport.
Well, that's going to be a tough little battle when this race gets underway. Christian Engelhardt, wow, 33 thousandths of a second up in the middle sector. So that's a great run from Engelhardt. Personal best, Sector 1, that'll not go amiss either. So he's just now got to finish the entry into Turn 14. Gets the nose in, gets on the throttle, of course, loads of traction from the Porsche. Now, can he challenge what has been an unchallengeable time from Jules Gounon? Comes across the line, was 7th, goes on to provisional pole.
Wow, by not a lot, by 45 thousandths of a second, but Engelhardt's been looking super strong this weekend. More new tyres going on, fresh rubber on the number 7 Talksport car. Yusuf Oaxaca sitting in the pits and waiting. More than half of this field sitting in the pits and waiting. And I'm still waiting to see the shot from Johnny Adam, car number 188, the Aston Martin, that's challenging in the Pro-Am class, but it's not challenging at the moment. It's sitting down towards the tail of the field, 3rd in the Pro-Am class, but a long way down on Chavez and Baumann, who are 8th and 9th overall.
Well, it's interesting that both Aston Martins are 22nd, 23rd, so indicates that whatever the car's pace is, that's probably the pace that they're going to get, which is not good enough in terms of the Pro-Am category for the 188 Aston Martin, as Chavez and Baumann are way, not only just in terms of qualifying time, but grid positions way ahead of the 188 Aston Martin.
And you really felt that if Chavez had continued that lap to the finish, he'd have improved his time yet further and maybe moved up a couple of positions. That would have been an astonishingly good run for the Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini, but the 54 Porsche just been handled beautifully this weekend from Christian Engelhardt. Has a little bit of a feeling for this circuit, but I think he's also just been clever. He's not exceeded track limits that we have noticed, and it's not us that's important, it's obviously the race officials, but a lot of times have been taken away for track limits, so the drivers have to know they have to just stay that little bit within, because otherwise it's just thrown out of the window.
One car, well, 2 cars actually, but both from the same stable, Raffaele Marcello and Jimmy Pla, 14th and 15th respectively. Klaus Backler, just by the way, has improved in his Porsche. So that's the car on screen, but waiting for Marcello and Jim Pla to leave the pits for their last chance saloon. And in the meantime, Rick Breukers in the Mad Panda has gone fastest purple in Sector 1. So that isn't a done deal by any stretch.
No, he's only 3/10 down on Christian Engelhardt's fastest time of all. So I think there's legs in this session yet into the final 5 minutes. And there it is, the Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes. Now, the middle sector seems to be the one where people sort of fall away. They can be quick relative to their own times in Sector 1 and 3, but Sector 2, which runs from the exit of Turn 5 to the exit of Turn 11, it's where the time, and he's improved on that as well. So this is looking very promising indeed for Mad Panda Motorsport. His teammates Ezequiel Perez-Compang, Argentinian by nationality but based in Barcelona. He'll be very, very chuffed indeed if they can get on the front row, even more so if they can take pole position. But at the moment, Rick Breukers running around in 6th place. He should improve, surely. It's a question of how many positions he'll gain.
Well, he'll want to get up onto the 2nd row of the grid. Well, he's on the 3rd row of the grid, so that's a significant improvement for the number 90 Mercedes, alongside Josos Pahaka in the number 7 TalkSport car. Dries van Thor in the Audi, the lead Audi. He is on 7th quickest. Now waiting to see when will those two ACA ASP Mercedes show their hand. Have they been hanging back waiting for clear air? Do they want to put a time in that can't be challenged because we've run out of time?
Well, they've left it late, 3.5 minutes remaining. They need to outlap, and then maybe they just simply think they can do it in 1 lap alone. They may squeak 2, but I think possibly going against Pla, possibly Marcello will manage just that.
Well, that's one of the two ACA cars coming out of turn 11, and you have Pahaka, nothing of any improvement in those first 2 sectors. So 6th place, he will look to consolidate, and there's nobody really on a lap at the minute that would indicate they're going to threaten it, but there is a bit of green showing. Norbert Siedler showing green, Christopher Haas is showing green, still waiting for Marcello, who's not showing anything, just gone out on his last lap, and it's a slow out lap. Dominic Baumann, Pro-Am, fastest overall, 1:32.330.
He said, someone just told me the Mercedes are good here this weekend. Dominic, the Pro in a Pro-Am lineup. For his teammate, Valentin Pierberg, they're lying 3rd in the Pro-Am Championship. Suddenly he's thinking, thank you, young Dominic. And Dominic, fastest by 22 thousandths of a second. It's Mercedes from Mercedes. It's Baumann from Engel. It's German from German. The 3rd German driver in 3rd place. That's Christian Engelhardt in the 54 Porsche. Who is going to fight back? But bragging rights for SPS Automotive Performance at the moment with 2 and a bit minutes remaining.
Well, talk about predictability. There's a lack of predictability in this qualifying session. I think probably the most I've seen in a considerable time. A little bit wide there as he came into turn 8, and that probably will shave a few tenths of a second away from Baumann's time. He already has got that provisional pole position. He's got a fastest sector, personal sector at Sector 1. Suspect that it will not be green as he comes up to the conclusion. No, it's not. It's only by a very small margin, but he's getting through these last 3 turns. Can he make a fractional improvement or not? Right now, Mauro Engel is now the lead of the Chargers. He's 2nd quickest, and yet again on another flying lap.
Still, Eddie Cheever, we saw him go up into 2nd place overall. He's still hanging on to 5th place. As I say that, he goes down to 6th. Who has made a move? It was Yusuf Ohaka going back past him. These tyres are going to chop and change. But Mauro Engel, the white Mercedes, number 6, coming down the start-finish straight. He's 2nd fastest, down by only 22 thousandths. Will he go top? Yes, he goes top by nearly 1/4 of a second. Will that be enough? Times are going to keep on changing. Ollie Wilkinson starting to make the move. He lost a lap time. He's built himself up. He went to 12th. He's now up to 9th. Goes down to 10th. The times are chopping and changing. Norbert Siedler's coming up. And where is Raffaele Marcello?
Yeah, don't worry about him. 89, Jules Gugnon is the one we've got to keep an eye on, because he is now coming into the final turn. He's got fastest overall sector in Sector 2 and a personal best, so this could be a challenge to Mauro Engel's time. Jim Pla has just got 2nd in this sister car.
Yeah, and I said, where's Raffaele Marcello? I didn't expect to find him in the pit, so he's aborted by the looks of things. He's 21 seconds, 21st position, and now we're down to 30-something seconds, and Yusuf Ohaka picking up the pace yet more. Mercedes looking super, super strong. Only Christian Engelhardt's breaking their run in the top 6 and can Puaka make a move as well. And so we're down to the final knockings, the final 20-something seconds. And for Marcello and Boguslavski, they had the bad luck with the puncture and the penalty at Brands Hatch. And it seems to run on here to Valencia down in 21st position. A disaster for them, but at least their teammates in Gugnon and Pla are second and third on the provisional grid. It's all Mercedes at the front.
Well, this is a big surprise to find that Raffaele Marcello, well, I mean, what can you say, outside the top 20. I don't remember when that last happened.
Okay, the checkered flag is out. Johnny Adam is 25th. He's bottom in the Pro-Am class, but he did on a flying lap, so we could have him leaping up the order in the 188 Aston Martin. We know the car's got the pace. He's got the pace. He's got to find a gap. And is there going to be any further improvement at the front of the field? Jim Plough would love to get pole position. It's not going to happen, surely, because that middle sector, not good enough. He lost ground. But still looking very strong for Mercedes. It's Engel from Gugnon, from Plough, from Baumann. The top four runners all in Mercedes. Engelhardt the best of the rest in a Porsche in fifth. Where are the changes coming from?
Well, Johnny Adam is up to, well, he's up to 19th, so that's an improvement, an important improvement for that puts him. He's still third in the Pro-Am, but takes him nearer to his principal competitors. And that's the 77 Barwell Lamborghini and Dominic Baumann in the 20 Mercedes, the SPS Automotive Mercedes.
Yeah, great job from Baumann. Any late changes? Audi, top Audi, Dries Van Tor in 13th position overall. That is extremely unusual.
Well, 2 stars, Van Thor and Marcello, well and truly. And I just wonder, I said before we went out, those are 2 drivers that are the press on regardless, absolute on the limit driving style. And I just wonder, has that been a contribution to why those 2 driver car combinations haven't fared better in these conditions?
Well, I think what's remarkable is that Mauro Engel has taken pole position. There's his teammate Lucas Stoltz. It's suddenly come together for them in qualifying, and the pendulum has swung the other way. The table has been tipped against ACA ASP. They look strong all round, but hats off to TalkSport WRT. Fantastic job, and big smiles over the top of Lucas Stoltz's mask, because his teammate Mauro Engel's put them on pole for the second race, and he grabbed second position for the first of tomorrow races. So they're looking for a good points haul. It's been an up and down season for TalkSport WRT, but it's very much come to the upper end of that equation. And Dominic Baumann smiles all round for SPS Automotive Performance. That was a strong run, 4th overall. Be delighted with that, but top in the Pro-Am class. So that was a mighty, mighty run.
Yes, and that's by a country mile. The next car is the Lamborghini down in 15th position, so 11 places between those 2 competitors in the Pro-Am category. And the Austrian family that follow all their racing drivers around Europe there, you can see, well, they'll be out chopping logs tonight, get rid of some of that pent-up energy.
Now, just to point out, Mauro Engel took that pole position. Jules Gugnon was only 7 1/1000ths of a second in arrears in second place, so oh so close for ACA ASP. But it's bragging rights for TalkSport WRT. And if you haven't got a Mercedes, you're going to be really thinking, well, I hope our cars come good over the course of the 2 races tomorrow. Let's take a look at the order. And at the end, by just that tiny, tiny margin of 7 1/1000ths of a second, it was Mauro Engel ahead of Jules Gugnon and Jim Plough. Those ACA ASP Mercedes coming very strong right at the end. But Dominic Baumann for SPS Automotive Performance, top runner in Pro-Am in 4th overall. That's outstanding. Just a quarter of a second down on the ultimate pace. Christian Engelhardt in his Porsche was 5th. But of the stars, to look to the second page to see the ACA ASP number 88 Mercedes down in 23rd position for Raffaele Marcello. Big disappointment. Parked up before the session was over. 26 of the runners went out, 1 did not, but a real mixture, John, and certainly what happened in session 1 did not happen in the second of the qualifying sessions here at Valencia. A real chop and change time.
It's a real punter's session that nobody would ever, well, maybe Mauro Engel, you'd have thought very good chance, but somebody would have put their money on maybe Dries Van Thor or put the money on Raffaele Marcello, probably on fairly short odds to boot, and that you can kiss that lot goodbye.
But also certainly looking at the qualifying session, those times came right at the end. We hardly got to talk about Albert Costa moving up to 6th place overall on home patch. Rick Broikers really starred, didn't quite put it together at the end, ended up in 7th. TalkSport with a second of their Mercedes in 8th. Eddie Cheever, though, what a star. He got back in the car at one point up to 2nd in that Sky Tempesta Racing Ferrari. And the little thought of rain beforehand seems to have gone away. The sky full blue over the circuit, Ricardo Torme. And certainly it was furious from start to finish, as it would be with a track that turns 14 times around just 4 kilometres. And it was a real case of getting out and getting some times on the board early on. We knew it was going to be effectively a two-part session. We saw for the first of the qualifying sessions, the drivers would go out, set their time, come back in, consider live, and then go out again for a second run. And certainly through the course of qualifying, Ben Barnicot really shone for McLaren. Came away with pole in the first of the sessions. It was a question of how the track kept on changing. The drivers reported there was so little grip. It looked as though there would be some, they didn't find it. Eddie Cheever, the third, absolutely flying on and near the track. Got the car corrected, turned in very quickly at that point. But in that first session, we had Lucas Stoltz coming up to take second place overall. Then we moved out as the times kept on changing. Who else was starting to feature? It was a changeover. Here is Ben Barnicot explaining how he took pole for the first of the qualifying sessions, and it was turned over to teammate Ollie Wilkins to see what he could do. He ended up 11th placed overall, but in that second session we had great speed from Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes, but eventually as they pressed on, it was Maro Engel working his way to the top and everybody else having a tilt at him. Some drivers losing their best laps for exceeding track limits. And it was a chase, and the ACA ASP cars of Jules Gounon and Jim Pla worked their way up to second and third places overall. Great run from Yusuf Pohaka in the number 7 Mercedes, but it was Maro Engel who just kept edging clear at the top of the table. Ollie Wilkinson kept on pressing on. Traffic was sometimes a little bit of a problem. But right at the end, Maro Engel came through. 1 minute 32.094, 77 one-thousandths of a second was all that was required, but a weekend that was looking very poor for the TalkSport team has suddenly come very good indeed, with a second for race 1 and a first, the pole position for the second of tomorrow races. Smiles at number 6.